This podcast has been brought to you by Cine.nl. This must you see.
Will you please listen up to what I have to say? Cause we're in for some old-fashioned wrestling today. Not the violent, oily opposerish kind, but the kind that involves pins and thumbs you will find. Cause it's thumb wrestling time. Yes, it's thumb wrestling time. So we will discuss pros and cons, faults and pluses of all your favorite movies. And we will ponder the merits of cinema in this WrestleMania. Cause it's thumb wrestling time. Yes, it's thumb wrestling time. Yes, it's thumb wrestling time.
Hello, pod people. Wow, that's from Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Welcome to a new episode of Thumb Wrestling, in which I, Ruud Vos, will hash it out with a very nice podcast about a certain film about which we disagree, because that's my jam. What is yours? Before you answer, I would like to say welcome to episode 40 Days and 40 Nights episode. This is 40, the 40-year-old virgin episode. Yeah, you know. A nice round number. And it's quite a special episode because it's the very first time where I spoke with someone across multiple time zones. Where I was, it was 9 o'clock and my guest was living somewhere where it was noon. And that place is Hollywood, California. Yes, I spoke with Hollywood actor Galen Howard. Now, he's been especially busy with loads and loads of cool, smaller projects, but if you're Dutch, there is actually quite a nice little chance that you've seen him in something. But I'll let him get into that, although I do prompt him a bit, but you'll hear. Now, you might think, how would you get to know someone in Hollywood? And actually, Galen started following me, or at least the podcast, on Instagram. It seems that he's quite an enthusiast for the medium and wants to get into it himself. And so I asked him, would you like to be in mine? And he said yes. So that is fucking cool. So we spoke exactly 2 weeks ago on Wednesday, the 15th of July. And we had a nice long chat about a film that I'm not sure most of you have seen. It's Colossal, the 2016 film by Nacho Vigalondo. And Colossal is both a monster movie and a drama about addiction. Gloria, played by Anne Hathaway, has lost her job and has been drinking ever since. Her boyfriend Tim has grown tired of her partying and has broken up with her. So she finds solace in her old hometown where she meets an old friend, Oscar, who runs a bar. Now that's not the best environment for her with her drinking. After a particularly long bender, she finds out that monsters have started wreaking havoc in Seoul, South Korea. Not just that, the monster moves exactly like her. It's almost as if she controls the monster, and after a small test she finds out that she does. But not just that, her friend Oscar finds out that he also has a monster, a huge robot. Because of all the damage she does when she's drunk, Gloria betters her life. She decides to quit drinking, but Oscar won't have that. He wants her for himself, so he threatens mass murder as the robot to pressure her into sort of a relationship. When all seems lost, Gloria flies to South Korea so her monster can materialize in her old hometown and defeat Oscar, who turns out to have been the real monster all along. Gloria sits down in a Korean cafe and starts telling her story to a stranger. The end. Alright, for me this was a lot of fun to watch, but it wasn't so much for Galen, so let's start talking about it.
3, 2, 1, fight!
They just shut down. They just shut down most businesses again in California.
Right.
So yeah, we're pretty much back to where we started. So I think.
Yeah, I heard.
Right. So any of that's going to be, I think there's not going to be much of anything for a while. So yeah, people just have to be patient and, take this seriously.
Yeah.
And all that. So our governor is definitely trying to make the regulations. I think there's been pressure from from federal, for reopening restarting the economy. So I think they've been.
Do you think Schwarzenegger would have handled it better?
I think he. As a governor, I don't know. I mean, I think anyone would have. I think anyone would have handled it better than the Cheeto. But
all right.
But I think. I don't know. I think they've tried similar reopenings elsewhere, and it's just that the problem is that no one is following the regulations.
Yeah. And, we have the same thing here,
right? I think part of it was also the with the protests. I think it. And it's not a direct fault of that, but it's I think a lot of people chose to interpret that as something else taking precedent, and they're basically okay, well it's fine for if hundreds of people can stand up against law enforcement, then I can have a drunken pool party in my backyard with all my friends.
You're doing more podcasts now?
I'm trying to. Yeah, this has just been it's a really cool thing, just to be able to connect with people in this way, and just it's something I'd ultimately like to branch out and do on my own. So this just gives me a lot of practice to just come on and be be a voice on someone else.
For me, it was just the idea I have to start using this anyway if I want to talk to people when we're in lockdown, and we were for 2 months, 3 months. So I thought, well, if that feels like a restriction, let's put it the other way around and make it a non-restriction where I can talk to people at the other side of the world. And
absolutely, yeah.
And you're getting some very nice acting jobs.
I have been, I mean.
What do you think people might know you from?
Probably the Marvel show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. had a fun part on that. Very cool death on that one. And Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's right. Had a fun little bit on that as one of Boyle's cousins. That was that was a real hoot. And then through the years, I've done a lot of things like web content and music videos for a lot of major artists.
I think most Dutch people might know you from the Justin Timberlake video.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. That's kind of has kind of international recognition. I think it's well over I think a billion YouTube views now. So it's that one has gotten a lot of.
I actually didn't know that you were in that until it was part of a pub quiz that I was taking part in. And then they showed part of the music video, and I thought, I know that guy. I have him on Instagram. Oh, wow.
Oh, that's so cool. Oh, it was a trivia question.
It was part of just what was the song and which artist.
Exactly. Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And you got to dance with Justin Timberlake?
He organized the entire. We had 2 days of filming. He organized the group. The group dance, and kind of he kind of facilitated that with an additional choreographer, and we had a separate day of rehearsal for that, and then another individual day to shoot all of our solo dancing.
Yeah. Does he still send you Christmas cards?
I'm sure his list is big. He might, I'm sure I'm always that last one that, right after he mails out that last Hallmark card.
That one where his head starts to hurt too much. You signed them, every one of them personally.
Of course he does. But no, that was a wonderful experience. The director on that was fantastic. A guy named Mark Romanek, who's known for movies like 1 Hour Photo, right? and all of his. And he's also a lot of incredible music videos, like Closer for 9 Inch Nails. He's
cool.
considered one of the top music video directors of all time. So
exactly.
So he was fantastic.
And I've seen you've been in a couple of features together with people like, for instance, Richard Reel.
Yes.
From Office Space.
Yeah.
Which tickles me, really.
Oh, Yes, one of his more well-known roles, and that guy's done everying, and
he's very much a that guy.
So much of that guy. Yes, from I think one of his first film roles was Gloria, back in the day, right. And then everything has done, major, major things like Hollywood thrillers like Body of Evidence and things like that, and all the way to more of the indie fare like Mysterious Skin and Palindromes, and just kind of the
Man from Earth.
Yes, he's that guy who just pops up in everything, and really the kind of the actor's
at
actor.
least been in a couple of films that made the internet explode.
Yes. Yes.
Man from Earth was one of those early things to go sort of viral. Because
it was such an interesting phenomenon. They made it for very little money, and because of the fans of the novel, it just kind of blew up. That people the fans really made that the success it was. It was just kind of a thing that just got shared among people.
Thanks for doing this. It's a first for me. I've my very first transatlantic bit of thumb wrestling.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah.
It might actually be the very first transatlantic game of thumb wrestling ever.
That's true. Yes, yeah. I mean, not traditional thumb wrestling, but yes.
No, exactly. Unless someone has made a robot arm for just that purpose, which is driven by someone at the other side of the world. I don't think this has happened before. Would you please give your mini review of Colossal? What is that movie to you?
Colossal to me is at times compelling, but ultimately disjointed kind of genre mashup about facing past trauma and standing up to past trauma, and also kind of how our actions affect other people, how we're the obliviousness to which that many of us carry about how our actions affect other people.
Yeah, and if you would sort of rate the film, what kind of a rate would you give it? Like how much?
I would say I would give it like a 5 out of 10.
All right. Because I'm not super positive, but I am positive about the film.
Yeah,
it really works as a drama, at least.
Right. I think it. I mean, I think
so. It would be close to 7, I think.
Okay. Good. Okay. Yeah. So that's So I mean, I think So you don't. It's not a perfect film to you, but I think you kind of lean towards some of its positive aspects more than I did.
Yeah, I did really enjoy it, and also especially the first time I watched it. Second time to make notes for the podcast. I don't think it's the most rewatchable of films, especially if you know where it's going, stuff like that. I think it really works with the shift in Jason Sudeikis.
Mm-hmm. I was seeing that before. I think it's interesting. I actually had kind of an opposite. I really did not like it the first time, and then I think the second time I saw some things in it that I was able to appreciate things a little more. But I still think it's fairly. I still think it's fairly uneven. I mean, you say it works for you as a drama, and I agree. I think it does work as a drama. I think the issue is that they have all of these other things in there. I think it's just kind of
they distract from the drama.
It's a misdirect, and I think it's kind of. It felt like one of those where someone had this very what they thought was a very cool idea, cool concept, and then tried to build a story around it.
Right. But what was the first time that you watched it? You sort of said that you really didn't like it that time. When was that?
When I saw this movie for the first time.
I saw it in the theater. I saw it with. I saw it with a friend.
Make the theaters here.
One and I'm also in Los Angeles, so we get a lot of the first run stuff. So we're very spoiled that way. I saw it the first time. I saw it in the theaters when it came out. I saw it with a friend who I think had a very violent reaction to it, and I think that also colored my reaction as well.
Probably, yeah. Did he start having a violent reaction to it during the film, or mostly
during the film? Like we were just, it was one of those where like it's like one of those where like you physically just like sink further and further down into your chair, and like we would just like look at each other and just kind of, and then back at the screen and just kind of look at each other and like, and it was one of those. I think
listen to them, children of the night, what music they make. Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
It's difficult when you have flawed characters like this that are so difficult to like, and I think you have I think and that yet you try to make it a redemptive story. I mean, he was still working in the sort of the sort of classic heroic structure. And I mean, it's if you're talking about a film like Barfly or some like a Bukowski movie or something, or like Leaving Las Vegas or something where it's really about someone succumbing to that lifestyle, that's one thing. But I think when they're still trying to when they're starting someone so low and trying to build them towards this heroic end, I think it just didn't work for me. I think it would just, the ending, as far as the journey of that character, just wasn't earned at all for me.
The second time,
I mean, the second time I was compelled by, I enjoyed it a lot for the acting. I mean, I thought Jason Sudeikis is incredible in it. I think he's one of the best parts of it.
I would say he is probably my favorite part of it.
Yeah, and I think, and that's I think that's part of the problem, because he's the antagonist, and and he really overshadows Anne Hathaway's character, and I think he's because
it takes him like almost half the movie to actually become the antagonist, like clearly. Before that, he has a couple of these small moments.
Yeah, which I thought was interesting. I mean, I liked how they kind of led you into that, and you didn't quite know what you were getting into. I liked that element of it. I think
they hang this cliche over your head of the old friend from past town, which is probably a better love interest than the one that has dumped her at the start of the film.
The start, right? Because at the start of the film, she's been, she's established as this sort of aging party girl. The
drinking problem.
The boyfriend is. The boyfriend has had it. I thought that was
quite economic, like the first scene where she just comes home after a night of boozing and he's sitting there with a psycho face, Dan Stevens, and
Dan
tells
Stevens,
her to go.
Right. Yeah, I like him a lot. He didn't have as much to do in this one, but I do like Dan Stevens.
No, he had the psycho face in the first scene, and after that, a couple of his bumblings, which he does really well, but it's scattered.
Very scattered. Yeah. No, I mean, I like him playing bumbling. I mean, I think the movie that got me excited about Dan Stevens was The Guest.
Right. Yeah. I haven't seen that one yet.
Oh.
I did watch Legion, which I really dig.
Yes, I saw the first season. Yes, Legion is great. Yeah.
Yeah, I watched Colossal the first time because you suggested it for the podcast, and I hadn't seen it yet. But I really wanted to see it because it got compared a lot to other films which have a very similar theme. With a big monster.
You said a Monster Calls was one of them?
A Monster Calls, yeah, where it's a little boy who gets visited by a monster who sort of becomes a dad figure for him, but is also a threat. But the monster sort of represents trauma in that one, clearly.
Okay.
More clearly than in this one, if you think about it, I would say. And in I Kill Giants, film that only came out on Netflix here in the Netherlands.
Okay.
About a small girl who goes around town, says she's trying to kill giants that visit her town. But also those giants are clearly a symbol for her trauma because her mom's sick. So that is
right.
There's a similar. Those two are almost the same, I would say, in many ways, but they draw on different things.
Yeah, I think what do you think the significance of the monster? What do you think that represents in this one?
In Colossal?
In Colossal.
I would say now that it is like a symbol for any kind of destructive behavior that comes from having a drinking problem.
Right. Yeah. I think
that is the way to look at it that makes the most sense if you look at it from start to end, because Oscar also has a drinking problem and he has his robot monster and he sort of embraces it. He wants to be special, he says. He wants to be something else. That's why he drinks. That's why he gets the monster. Mm-hmm. That's why he wants to keep the monster, while actually Gloria, I had to look her name up again. Gloria, she once she realizes how destructive the monster is and how destructive she is with that, she wants to stop it. But Oscar is her enabler. That's how he's represented, and I think it actually sort of portrays addiction quite well, really.
In that way, yeah.
Yeah. Also, where Tim, the Dan Stevens character, he says that he won't have anything to do with her again as long as she drinks.
Right.
Won't talk to her when she's drunk, stuff like that. So he's trying to be a tough guy and say, well, I'm not going to enable you anymore. And it's not the thing you want to hear when you want to quit drinking.
Yeah.
But probably it's best for her. But it's also a good way to position that, like, he's being a bit of an asshole to her. So she goes find her solace somewhere else in her old hometown, where she runs into an old friend who has a bar, who is clearly an enabling figure.
Right.
Who then grows into someone who threatens mass murder to get her to do what he wants.
Right. It's very.
Have you tried that tactic ever with girls?
Yeah.
Mass murder.
Mass murder. Right. Yeah. It's interesting how that all plays out. Going from enabling her, trying to to kind of keep her at his level, I think, and then ultimately escalating that to mass murder, which I think it's an outlandish idea, I think, and it's an interesting idea. I think
it's like him saying, well, if you don't do what I want to, I will go get drunk and hit some people. Mm-hmm. Consequences are smaller, so that's why there's the monster that is sort of a bigger consequence, I think.
Right.
Like a stronger symbol, but the monster is also something that is really far away. So it's also sort of an abstract, like the results of drinking are a very abstract thing that you don't really notice if you're not paying attention to them.
Yeah. I mean, part of that is is for the purpose of the story. So, that she, this is something that she's not aware of as much.
Well, a boy's best friend is his podcast.
It is a very weird, nonsensical incident that they've made to explain why there is a monster.
That was one of my big problems with it. Is this sort of, I mean, especially when you're talking about trauma, when you're talking about something that is, really. I think that's the big slip up. I feel that was just kind of an afterthought, as far as you put this character at the lowest point, and then you really don't. I mean, it's not that you don't. It's not that you need that sort of explanation of why they are where they are, why this is the person, like, oh, I'm a bad guy because my dad hit me or whatever. I mean, you don't need that, but it's also, but they have given given this sort of this sort of catalyst for that for the monster, and for it to be he stomped on her diorama. It's like, and that's,
I'm not sure that is why she's drinking, but
right. But that's kind of what they're saying. I mean, that's kind of using the logic of it. It's like, like, okay, it's this incident that summoned the monster. I mean, it's
an unclear metaphor.
It's an unclear metaphor.
Actually, the second time that I watched it, I actually thought, well, I don't even remember from watching it the first time. Why does she even drink? And I made a note of that. Why does she drink? And I hoped to put in an answer during the movie, but there is none.
So I think as far as you talk about how to improve this film, like, I think the thing what I would want to see is either don't have an explanation at all, like don't have anything, just have this be, just have this be an unexplained thing, or go deeper with that trauma, go deeper
and
with
make it have some more sense in some
more
way.
sense. Yes,
because it's a very random thing that she's walking anywhere with a diorama of South Korea.
And what's and what does that mean to her? What is that? We don't know what that means to. We don't know what that means to her or anything. No. It's so kind of arbitrary. And the
flashback is just mostly about him.
Right.
Not about her. So that's sort of a weird misdirect. We don't even know how she got started drinking. Was it 1 year ago when she lost her job, or before that?
I mean, yeah.
She's been outlandish before that because she lost her job by doing weird stuff.
Right. Well, it seems like I get the sense that, because they talk about like, she I think she was writing or something. She was, something like that. She had left town and had a good job at one point, and then did something stupid and lost the job. Yeah. And made a stupid comment and then got late, and then was one of the first to be laid off and that sort of thing. So she's in that she's had a life of poor decisions. And I will also give you that there are plenty of other things that are quite clunky in the film.
Mm-hmm. Like the thing with Tim Blake Nelson, great actor, love him. But the thing about him snorting coke in the bathroom,
it doesn't really lead anywhere. It was just kind of an aside, right?
Yeah. And it's quite a disruptive thing for the film. It takes you out of the rhythm almost, the way that goes. But it's just there to show that Oscar is an asshole.
Pretty much, yeah. And that he's using other people's, he's focusing on, what a lot of people do is, to enable themselves, is to focus on the flaws in other people to justify themselves. It's like, well, I'm an alcoholic and I'm an abusive alcoholic, but you do cocaine,
Yeah.
It's I beat up my, I beat this guy up, but you killed someone, it's like, it's just like, it's just you looking for the next thing to excuse your own behavior.
Exactly. And Garth, played by Tim Blake Nelson, I wonder if he has if he does have a cocaine problem still. Does he also get his own monster?
Right. Yeah. And they don't really go into that. Right. Yeah. Cause it was, cause I'd forgotten about that catalytic moment in the beginning, that they go back to, because I think because it is so, uneventful and unimpactful. So it's like, I was thinking like, well, why do you only see the why is it only these two people, and why are there why are there monsters?
If it's really just those two people because they're the only two people who even go into the playground. The other ones just keep hanging on the side, watching from a distance. As far as we can tell.
Like why are there? Right. Yes, and so like why are there? Why are there monsters manifested? It's just sort of this moment where lightning strikes, she gets mad, and her monster is summoned.
And they both have an action figure in there,
right? Yeah, with the little avatars, little action figures,
Yeah.
little monsters, and that monster and the robot, and which just seemed very arbitrary. Again, it's just all these little kind of moments to kind of
I think it's almost like the filmmaker saying, well, it's not really about this, so I'm just going to give you a bad explanation.
Yeah, just kind of letting himself off the hook in that way, and I think, and then it's like, why? I mean, I think if you're going to have something like that, if you're going to have something fantastic like that and root it in something very, very real, like alcoholism, like trauma, like this deep trauma, I think you have to have, so you have to kind of build around the structure a little more. Like why, other than it was that it was the subject of her diorama. Like, what's the significance of South Korea? I mean, what is that? What does that say? I mean, so it's South Korea. It could be anywhere. I mean, I think it'd be interesting
whichever
if it was
place
something
she has a diorama of.
Yeah, why did she make a diorama of South Korea? Did she have I would think it'd be interesting if she had a family member there, or if there was something, if there was something there, if there was some significance to that. But it just felt like it was just like somewhere, just touch your finger on the globe, South Korea,
Let's have something that looks like Japan, but is not quite Japan.
Not quite Japan, right? It's like, okay, we're calling, we're referencing like a Godzilla, but not quite, just. Hey,
they made a monster movie in South Korea, The Host. If they so much
right?
Monsters, we'll give them monsters now.
Right, the big monsters, right? Yeah. The traditional monsters. Yeah. It's interesting that way. Yeah.
And the memory thing is also something that is, it's sort of a device to explain that she has a problem, but I don't know how far she has to go. She doesn't look like she has Korsakov's, which has more things going for it than just memory going, because Korsakov comes from taking very bad care of yourself, not eating right, stuff like that. Mm. But is it just because she drinks that much? That
I think, it seems like, she's like, just blacking out. Yeah, I mean, that's the sense I got. Yeah,
but she also doesn't remember a funeral of Oscar's mom that she went to when she was young.
Right.
Well, she may be already drinking then. That would have been very dark.
I think, it's probably, she is, she is drinking enough that it is affecting her memory, and they're touching on that about the way that we drink to bury past trauma, and those memories still lie within us. We trap them inside of us, but those are still our monsters inside of us, those memories, those demons.
A couple of things that I really liked about the films are some of them are also quite sort of forced, I would say, but but well done enough that I think it works. Like Gloria gets this huge television, and it's clearly just there for that one shot where she first realizes. Well, she's done the first test that the monster is her, and she does one where she holds up both her arms. Mm-hmm. She's standing in front of the television, and you see the monster's arms go there, like a clear representation of this is her. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little forced. It's a good visual image. She's very good with his visuals, but they do come off a little forced.
But that sort of worked. But the one that I probably like best is when Oscar's actually severely, like brutally hit her down, and then goes stamping through the child's playing area, and you just get the sounds of people in Korea being squashed, probably. Like
right, and the air raid sirens,
exactly. But mostly just the way that the foot buries into the
sand,
the soft underground of the playing ground.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good way of sort of showing the destruction without actually showing it.
Mm-hmm. I can see that, yeah.
There are a couple of very good creative decisions in that way.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's very good with his he's very good with his devices. He's very skilled with his storytelling devices. I think I just would have liked more cohesion with that.
If only the metaphor was clearer.
Yeah, and I think also now getting towards the ends when she's back, she's come to, so she knows that he's Oscar is going to is set on just upping the ante, is hell bent on destruction. So she goes to the source. She goes to South Korea, and
she switches around.
She
doesn't even
around.
know if a monster will appear in her hometown, but she tries it.
She tries it, and I think it's very convenient, that of all, in all of the area immediately surrounding the monster, she knows exactly where to stand, or that she happens to stand just in the right
where
place
to grab him.
That's
a fluke.
Yeah, I mean that's.
She has no visual on him
fantastic.
whatsoever.
There's so much suspension of disbelief, but it's so convenient in that way. Just that she knows exactly proportionately where to reach up. All of that.
But at least there is a shot of her looking up with amazement. Oh, this worked! She can't. She barely believes herself that going that way.
Yeah, but it's very convenient that in the first try she just stands right exactly in the same place because we've been told that it's from the playground that it's very specific coordinates that line up.
Yeah.
So it's very convenient. She of all in that town square, she stands in the right exact spot to do it.
We don't actually see if she's standing right in front, very close to the monster or not. But
I mean,
she does.
in viewpoint of the monster. So but it's but she could have chosen anywhere to stand in view of a 100-foot monster. And then just carrying home this idea of confronting past trauma, and that she becomes the monster, embraces her monster to confront his monster.
Yeah, sort of I have to become my worst self to defeat his worst self, or something like that.
Yeah,
the way she says it to her old boyfriend Tim is, "This is the most out of control I've ever been." Mm-hmm. When she phones him.
Right. Yeah. I don't know about that.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's a tough conceit, and then I think he represents, from that catalytic incident, he represents, her trauma. And I think the idea that you just, kind of embrace your monster and just throw the trauma away, she literally just flings it away. I think is a little problematic thematically.
Yeah. But I wonder if we should see the monster as a real monster, because a monster is something that is out of control. Actually, it is in control. They can control it. They can control them if they want to. Mm-hmm. And you even use them for good in this instance. So
the monster
is more destruction than an inner demon or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Probably.
So she.
But it's a tough metaphor.
It is tough. I mean, because it's true. We have to learn to. Any kind of trauma we live with, we're never away from it. It's like you've seen the Babadook. Yeah. So it's the idea of it's always going to be there. It's just going to be, in the basement and eat worms, you just confine it. You put a structure around it. And so she does find a way to control. I think that is the very best way
that has ever been put onto film.
I agree.
I get that Oscar is the real monster of this story. He is the antagonist. He's the one he's way more destructive. She is destructive at the start when she does no control, but Oscar actually chooses destruction.
And I think that's why he's
a bigger Human beings are the real monsters. That's the lesson of this story.
Yeah, and I think I don't know that, and I know that you need a often you do need it helps to have a clear protagonist, antagonist, but it also by making him the pure monster, I think it kind of lets her off the hook from her demons. I think I would have liked to see her struggle more.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
I do like the bit where Garth says the monster doesn't look down, so it's probably steered from somewhere else.
Yeah, I like that too. I like that part.
But
that was interesting.
It's a very, very cool observation.
Yeah.
But that doesn't excuse the many deaths she has caused for a long time. For a long time, at least for a couple of nights, but still.
Right. Yes. And so again, we're the destruction that she's caused, from that incident. Also, we're kind of excusing that, and at the same time excusing her, kind of her history of this kind of behavior, and again, putting the emphasis, Oscar will take blame off of himself to someone else. It's kind of putting the blame onto him. I mean, there's the moment where she stands up to him where he says, have a drink with me, and she pours out the drink. You have that moment where you think, she might fall off the wagon, and she doesn't. I mean, I think that was a little too easy. I would have, from the way that we've seen her fuck up before, I would have liked there to be, a little more struggle.
And she probably should have been way more in withdrawal.
Yeah.
She has a clear problem. She should be shaking and stuff like that.
Exactly. I think there should be more. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. I mean, there should be more of that, and then but then you get into the issue of the addiction aspect, and now you have the aspect of addiction versus, this idea of your addiction causing damage to other people, and it's this, and so that just makes it.
And making your apologies to the people you've hurt is one of the 12 steps. I know that,
sure.
But it's not this way. You have to go to everyone separately.
All exactly. The family members. You can't do it all in one fell swoop. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't. She's not really. I think anyone who's been on taken that road to recovery would definitely object to how.
So there's quite a good understanding of what addiction is, but it's not perfect. Far from
no, I mean, it touches on it for sure, but there's a lot,
especially in the love triangle. That's a part of it that I think works best about the addiction story. The love triangle thing. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that works best about the addiction story. Like the way Tim is presented, the way Oscar is presented, and comparable both to Gloria. And I especially like that Gloria seems to have no romantic interest whatsoever in Oscar, who still is very possessive of her.
Yeah. What do you think is the purpose of Oscar's other friend, the younger guy that she has a couple nights with?
It's a trigger for him. Mm-hmm. It's jealousy, the possessiveness. He sees Gloria as the one that got away, as the one that represents sort of special life. So he's just kind of He's just kind of bait in the story, pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. And he has not a lot to do except be the nice guy, the sort of good-looking guy. There's just that one very weird misunderstanding in the beginning, which then is milked out as a joke the second time around.
Right, but then she clearly invites him. Invites him over.
Of course, he has nothing to do anymore, so he just sits there in a bar going, "Yeah, good on you, girl," but has nothing else to do. No. And I wonder also at the end of the film, what's going to happen to her? Because, well, maybe she's faced her monster, which has turned out to be Oscar and not the monster itself. But yeah, she's it's just the start of the healing process, right? It's not. She's not out of it when she.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, and it seems like she knows that she's going to That she.
She does sit down in that bar and she says, "I have a story to tell you." So there's a sort of a part of it where she starts owning up, be honest about stuff that has happened.
Right, because that's another that's another
the
part of
woman
the
from
12.
the shop is not really. She's not a victim or anything. There's no stakes in telling it to her.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's another part of the 12 steps is telling your story.
Right. Yeah, at least in the circle and in
the
support
circle,
groups,
right?
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's where it starts, I think.
Yeah, and so. So I think that's interesting. But again, it's a lot of very interesting elements that I think just don't really add up. Like the whole is not equal to the sum of the parts.
Yeah, and that message that she leaves, I'm sorry, I've made a mistake. This will not happen again.
Yes.
I apologize, I think. Something like that.
I apologize. Yeah, I will not. Yeah.
Did you know that's drawn from real life?
What part?
That message, that exact text. It was something that was said by the Spanish king, Juan Carlos I, when during a recession, he went out on an elephant hunt in Africa.
Okay.
Paid 40,000 euros or something like that for a safari trip to kill elephants.
Okay.
Which only reached the news, I think, because he broke his hip, so he got injured there, and then it was part of the news, and all kinds of people who were in debt in Spain just riled up against him, like, how dares that fucker spend so much money while we can all really use that cash, and he just flaunts it around to kill an elephant. And then he had to go on the air and publicly state, "I apologize. This."
And it was that.
I made a mistake. This will not happen again.
And that was it was that phrase verbatim.
Yeah, yeah, but in Spanish.
Right, of course, yeah. But
the director, I think he's Spanish, but Nacho Vigulando.
Yeah, I think he's he's Spanish. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Had you heard that story before? Did you read about that?
I read up about it. It's in the IMDb trivia.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But it's sort of fitting because it's sort of an empty apology, and I think it also reads as sort of a weird empty apology. It's sort of accepted by the people of South Korea, maybe, but
and everywhere, like the people, in South Korea, and then
but
elsewhere.
You can make the apology, but you still have to act on it, and I think that's why it's significant, why that one was chosen.
Right, because it is, because that moment is it's at first the apology, and it's making the apology in itself is it has no impact, but making good on that promise.
Exactly.
Doing this will not happen again. Doing the work to make sure it doesn't happen again. And I don't know. I don't know if I'm not sure if we really see her do that work. If we really see, if she really earns that kind of redemption at the end,
Puny God.
What would you say are a couple of things that you could appreciate?
I mean, I liked Jason Sudeikis' performance. I liked the way he's presented as sort of, benign at first, and then they kind of pull back the layers of his character. I think that was really interesting. I think that was done very well. There are these
small suggestions about his past, but they don't really say anything. Like a woman moved in with him with a child, and that didn't last. But
right, and then we see his place later, and it's we see what kind of toxic environment he lives in.
Yeah, and he's a hoarder. He scratches face out of photographs.
Right. So there's a lot of aggression. There's a lot of anger that is unchecked aggression and anger. Yeah. That he's dealing with. Yeah. So
his messy place clearly stands in for his mind.
His mind. Yeah. And then the idea. Yeah. And then he's scratched his wife's face out of the photos. There's kind of a violence there that kind of connotes that. So
and the sort of obvious thing, like he tries to dump some of his baggage on her.
In a literal sense, right? Yeah. So
I've never seen anyone so happy with a futon, but it's also sort of I hate these things that are in my mind. I don't know why you would like them. There's a hint of it in that,
right? Yeah,
but then you're taking the metaphor too far, and then it doesn't work anymore. So that's
I mean, I think that's the big problem with this, is that it's hinged by this. You mean the whole story is built around this sort of kind of fantastic sort of spectacle. This spectacle that's kind of becomes kind of a metaphor for it, and so you're kind of and the metaphor doesn't.
You point at loads of things where you say this is metaphor, and then it just works on just
one
parts
level
of it. Yeah, one level, and
right, and I mean, I think, I think in general, I think it's better to have. Because I think in interviews he talked about, like, he wanted to make a monster movie. That was the first idea of, and he liked this idea of like the avatars, people like controlling these avatar monsters, and so that was, and then he kind of built something around that. I think it's better to have to have your idea of telling a story about someone dealing with trauma and their own demons, and then think about, well, what's another way to tell that,
exactly,
as opposed to working backwards.
Yeah,
and I think there was a lot of things that were just kind of the blanks,
and
that were just kind
there were
of
more people at the same
in.
time. Yeah, there was more people at the same time who reached the same sort of conclusion with. Well, I think A Monster Calls was a book before, and I Kill Giants I think that came out around the same time. Was
that an original as well?
I think it's an original story, but I'm not entirely sure. I would have to look that up. But that's the one I saw first.
Okay.
And I think I might have liked it less if I would have seen it after A Monster Calls, which is clearly the best of the three. Very strong film, that one.
Good to know. Yeah.
That one, that's the one that drew out a couple of tears. But if you're going to watch it, watch I Kill Giants first.
Okay. Good to know.
I would say, because then you might enjoy it more.
Okay.
And that has some other benefits with it, like it draws a bit more on Japanese cartoon style, like the way it's designed in some ways. It like looks more like kaiju and stuff like that, while A Monster Calls is more like a fairy tale sort of thing.
Right. That makes sense. I got this.
So all three of them are sort of distinct, but they are similar.
There's a sort of the sort of the monster as metaphor kind of. There's a similarity in there. Interesting. Yeah. Because I think that's all there's. I think you can look at that in any monster movie, that there's the monster is a metaphor, like like Godzilla being a metaphor for like the atom bomb, and
exactly.
There's always that that sort of that monster, that demon, that that
thing we created,
that insurmountable thing that we create. The monster that we create. Sometimes it's created by by a mass, by mass society, representing mass society, and sometimes it's it's our own monster that becomes much bigger.
Yeah, exactly. By accident or whatever.
Right, exactly. So it's interesting.
It is a good premise.
It's an interesting premise. I mean, I was very intrigued by it. In the beginning, I don't see a lot of things in the theater. So it was one where I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I think there's a lot there. I think, but it's again, it was that string connecting everything together. It just wasn't quite there.
You've already touched on improvements. So what would you say would you need most to improve this film for you?
I mean, I think touched a lot on that. I mean, I think really really going into more depth about the source of her drinking. I think, because I think, again, by putting more attention on Sudeikis and the other monsters in her life, the one right in front of her and the one far away in South Korea, it kind of takes away from from her own demons. And I think, if you're going to go back and show this catalytic moment, really go into more depth, with that. Like, what is,
make it
what's
something that really matters.
Yeah, what's keeping her from drinking? Because if it's just and what's keeping her making the same mistakes? Because otherwise, you're just making a broad statement that she's a fuck up, and that's not interesting. You want to make a statement about, like, this is something that she can't get over. This is something that keeps returning. And when you present it,
been something from a teens, like when she's a bit older than she is now, where Oscar was also in the picture,
right? If it's something that. Yeah, that's actually interesting. If that's like the first
late
moment,
high school.
If you have a high school moment, if you have like another series of these events, I think that's, even if it's not like the thing that brings about the monster, it's the thing that at least keeps it there for her. And so we don't really know what that is. And I think if you're going to touch on that at all, you have to go. Either let it be let it be something that's just kind of intimated and not touch on it. But if you do, to the degree they did, you have to go deeper. And so that's what I would have wanted more than anything.
And there are loads of circumstances that can get you drinking. If your family has a history of addiction, then you're more prone to be one, whether it's genetic or whether it's having been programmed with that from early on. It could be both.
There
are loads of things, and there could be more of that in Colossal as well.
Yeah, I think so. I agree.
Like, also, they could be tied in with the explanation why there is even a parental house that is empty. Both of the parents are gone.
Yeah, we don't really touch on that. Yeah, I mean, obviously, they chose not to. That was one element they chose to kind of leave open. But yeah.
Hey, I like the running gag of waking up every morning with a backache. But it's just a running gag in the end.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I was wondering with that, like when it. I think I remember.
Best if that is part of the metaphor, then it is the her to herself is nothing compared to what she does to South Korea.
Right. I was exactly. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
For her, it's just a hangover, but for other people around her, it's destruction.
I was wondering if when I first saw that, I was wondering if are they going to do a thing where where she's where like some of the if the monster accrues any damage, is that what she's feeling?
Yeah.
If the monster is attacked, if the monster is attacked, if they use like an explosive or something against the monster, is she going to wake up with pain or something?
When the South Koreans fire a missile at the monster, then she feels it in her side.
Oh, that's right.
She's not really that affected. She feels it, but she doesn't start bleeding or anything.
Right. It's like
a helicopter crashes
bruise
into her head, and she just goes like, "Ow!"
Right. Yeah, that's right.
It's not very much.
But it's not some. It's just a fleeting moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not something that's necessarily taken any further.
No. Maybe it's just there to explain why the South Koreans stop attacking her with nukes.
Yeah, kind of just a filler that way. But well, I mean, it seems like we're we're more or less kind of at a draw at this point. I mean,
I think so. Yeah. It's not a contest. It's always about.
I know. But to kind of continue that metaphor,
Yeah. But I see where you're at, and I have to acknowledge, you're making a good point.
Yeah, no, and I see what you liked about it. I mean, I see, again, it's like most of what you've of what compelled you to it, and leaves left a good taste.
So do you know why a monster manifests when she does when she walks into that playground at 8:05 in the morning? No reason.
Right.
Sorry, I'm quoting Robert now.
Yes, exactly. No reason. No reason. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah, that's a movie I spoke about in another podcast recently. Yeah.
You tried to get into this podcast, but I hadn't seen it yet.
Yes.
And I'd only seen one thing by Dupieux, which was
Deerskin.
Deerskin.
Yeah.
Le Dem.
Yeah, it was, yes.
It was really good. But I have seen Rubber now.
Oh, you have?
I watched it yesterday.
Okay. Did you like it?
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Okay.
I do think it's a masterpiece.
I really do. I think it's really incredible. That was another one, though. I will say, it did. And I mentioned this on the podcast. It has. I think it is one that it doesn't necessarily withstand multiple viewings. I think I
can understand that. I'm not sure if I'm going to watch it a lot of times, maybe once more, but
exactly. I think it's one because it is kind of a practical joke. It's kind of a prank on the audience, and I think it does that brilliantly. But it's one of those where
it's very well made.
It's one of those where if you know the prank is coming, if you know how they do the trick, if you know the joke is coming, then you're it's like, oh, you're going to throw the sandbag at me, I duck. It's like so you don't have that initial impact of like, oh my god,
Well, maybe. I listened to the podcast before I watched it, so I did know what was coming, and it still had really great impact on me.
Cool.
Because I still didn't know what it would look like, how would it make it feel and stuff like that.
Yeah, and knowing that, but I mean,
they do some really great stuff, like the way they animate the tire with just practical effects. That is
the practical stuff is great. Yeah, and for it being a this like inanimate tire. Yeah, you really get a sense of the character. They do a great job with that. They do. There's a lot of rewards in that movie. Yeah, that's definitely one.
And it really pokes fun at that. Well, because they already have said no reason, and then you start putting reason into the tire yourself. Like, oh yes, of course she would kill the cleaning lady because she turns over the television. And
right.
You sort of justify his behavior in your head because you see it move, but there's no reason to assume that.
Well, right, exactly. Yeah, there's it's all at the end arbitrary. Yeah, he's.
It wasn't one of your 3 recommendations, was it?
I was thinking about that. I think, and that's a good segue. I think.
Tip 1.
As a sort of genre bending take on the monster movie, I think Rubber is a very rewarding film in that regard. So I think anyone looking for something very offbeat, a movie that just breaks every rule and kind of
weirdly high concept and also very dumb in a way, but in a very good way.
Very dumb, and very much embraces that very highbrow, lowbrow kind of this sort of high concept, but also completely subverts it as well. So if you want, that would actually be one of my recommendations. I think another would be
Tip 2.
Another one I watched recently, a different kind of monster movie that makes a very that has a lot of social commentary woven in is the movie from the 80s called The Stuff.
The Stuff.
With
never heard of it.
Oh, it's fun. It's like basically like this idea of like a like the idea of like a the stuff is like basically this like compound that's like found in like the Antarctic, and it's it's basically like it's like a blob. It's like it's kind of like the blob, but it's like but it's manufactured and sold in grocery stores, and it's basically like a yogurt. It's like a health food sensation. Right. It's like a sweet yogurt kind of confection, and so it's basically this idea of this thing, that's
the blob meets Soylent Green, sort of.
Yeah, and it's the thing that kind of it consumes the consumer, and right, and it's very kind of commentary on.
It takes the idea from Fight Club avant la lettre and says, do we? Yeah, exactly. The things you own end up owning you. The things you
consume, the things you consume you. Yes, and so it's this this whole it was his kind of satire on the health food craze on consumers. The consumers.
So still relevant
to the 80s. Yeah, that's the stuff. It's really fun.
All right.
And
low budget film. Is it a low budget film?
It's fairly low budget. It was made by a guy named Larry Cohen, who did a lot of.
I do know his name.
Yeah. He's was a writer as well. He wrote a lot of scripts, but also he directed a number of just these outlandish concepts. He did another great giant monster movie called Q, the Winged Serpent, which is really fun.
All right.
If you delve into his filmography, it's really fun, very varied. It goes from like
I will most definitely.
Yeah, it goes from like blaxploitation films to monster movies to kind of crime dramas, and all very much shot on shot very much guerrilla style with he would shoot without permits, and there's also a very for my third recommendation.
Tip 3.
From that, there's actually a really good. If you want kind of a primer on his movies, there's a really good documentary called King Cohen.
Right.
That's it kind of tells you about his. Gives a whole overview of his films, and
cool.
And kind of talks about his process. That he would. Kind of always, someone who was always breaking the rules, and incredibly prolific, and was someone who was always, just coming up with ideas. It was just kind of an idea machine up until the day he died. So it's very inspiring that way, but also kind of harkens back to a style of making movies that you can't do anymore.
And so we fought and we battled, yes, we beat each other up. Both of us tried hard, we both failed. Yes, I had you by the thumbs, but neither of us won. Only the love for cinema prevailed.
That is, as they say, the way the cookie crumbles. All right, that was cool. And I'm actually very happy with the way it sounds, because I had to record Galen's audio all the way here in the Netherlands. I think it came out great. That was a conversation on Zoom. I've heard them way worse than this. So I'm a happy camper. And thank you for listening, but also very many thanks to Galen Howard for being a guest in my podcast. I will put links to lots of his work in the podcast description, so you can learn more about him. Also to the Justin Timberlake video, because, well, it's fun, isn't it? Yes, it is. But Galen has also been the lead in a music video for a song called Energy by Disclosure. I'll also definitely put that in. It's a great fun to watch. And have I seen anything good these last 2 weeks? Hell yes. But I'll limit my own recommendations to 2. First one is on Amazon Prime, a great little film called The Vast of Night. It's a very low budget science fiction film, but it looks fantastic. It's a very small story set in the 50s in small town America, where a telephone operator and a radio DJ find a strange signal. It has sometimes a David Lynch-like vibe and also a very Robert Altman-like set piece at the beginning. I really dug this. It's great filmmaking. But maybe my favorite film I've seen this year so far could be The Last Black Man in San Francisco. Now, this is a film that's quite hard to pin down to tell you what exactly this is, but the director it reminds me of the most is Wes Anderson. Not because it's so quirky or the set designs are so lavish, but because it's made by a very young director with so much confidence, someone who knows exactly what he wants to say, how he wants to tell it, and it is a fantastic little film. His very first feature. Joe Talbot, he's a great talent, and also the actors in it are great. Jimmy Fails, who basically plays a version of himself, but also Jonathan Majors, who between this and The Five Bloods proves that he is going to be something big. I'm sure of that. Now, in the Netherlands, it will only play for the coming week, and I would say grab a ticket, go there, watch it. It is the best. All right, thank you again for listening to this podcast. This has been a cinema production, and I am Ruud, de 20e eeuwse Vos, and I am the presenter and editor of this podcast. Jingles, as always, have been made by the genius that is Roy Grutters. You can find us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, or as Galen did on Instagram, and your hate mail can be sent to our very Dutch email address, duimpjeworstelen@gmail.com. duimpjeworstelen@gmail.com. All right. See you Wednesday after next. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, could we have an enormous round of applause, please, for our host, who has once again succeeded in bringing to us a plethora of top-notch, cinematographically themed entertainment. We have had an absolute ball, have we not? Next time on Thumb Wrestling.
Toen zat ik echt weer tegen mijn scherm te schreeuwen van... Serieus. Deze oplossing, serieus. Jullie hebben dit bedacht om terug te komen. Je hebt je gewoon in het nauw geschreven. Mm-hmm. En dit is gewoon, slecht schrijfwerk. Ik vond het gewoon slecht schrijfwerk.
This podcast employs a strict only like and subscribe if you really want to policy. Okay, bye.